Hello, everyone. Today is the May 20th biweekly meeting for SIG Contributor Experience. My name is Bob Killen. Mr. Bobby tables across all the things. We have a pretty light agenda for today, but I'll kick it off with sort of our routine things. First and foremost, we abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct, which essentially boils down to please be excellent to each other. If anyone would like to volunteer as a note taker, that would be awesome. And if you could just toss your name in the agenda by the note taker section there, that'd be great. And lastly, for our normal routine stuff, do we have any new contributors on the line that would like to introduce themselves?
Good morning. I'm Marianne Clenland. I am new, first time to the meeting. I joined the hippie hacker team at II. And at the moment, I'm still stuck in South Africa. But as soon as I can find a commercial flight, I'll be in New Zealand with them. So yeah, first time joining your meeting.
Well, welcome. It's great to have you here. I'm expecting this meeting to actually not take too long since we have a fairly light agenda. But if you have any questions or want to stick around and ask anything, feel free.
Thank you.
With that, I will kick it off with events. George is actually hosting office hours right now. The morning session looked like it went pretty well. I had to drop for part of it. And I know that they're going to be having a networking specific one next month. Community meeting wise, things are looking good. For the Contributor Summit, we don't have any updates for that. I honestly don't expect any updates for a bit, but we'll see how things go. With the steering committee election, no real change since our last updates. Does anyone have any questions or things they want to mention about events? Okay. That will go on to mentoring. I don't see Paris on the line. Meet Our Contributors went pretty well. I think she's still looking for more volunteers for the next one. Does anyone else have any mentoring updates?
Just a brief update on Google Stream of Code and Community Bridge. So Google Stream of Code actually update that we don't have any updates until late June. So everything is smooth now. Mentees have been selected, so they are the community bonding period right now. With Community Bridge, we are at the final stage of selections. We have one slot granted for Kubernetes CSI working group, and they have selected their mentee, and another slot was granted to user experience group, and they, as far as I remember, it was the user experience, and they are making their selection probably by today or at least by the end of the week.
Awesome. Thanks, Igor. Does anyone else have any mentoring updates? Okay, we'll keep this ball rolling. I didn't have anything to add to the need to know for chairs, but if anyone has anything they can think of, please go ahead and toss it into that doc. Let's see, I don't see. Does anyone have an APAC team update? Okay. Moving right along, off to GitHub management. So this one we've talked about a few times before, and it's the GitHub org cleanup. We had our mailing list discussion on the ContribEx mailing list and had general support for it. We just need to be very clear on the verbiage. It has also been socialized with the chairs and team leads in the monthly meetings. and so far everyone has been very much in favor of it, especially cleaning up the inactive owners with that regard. Some of the next steps, I will probably be cutting a PR in the next day or so, updating the community membership doc. From there, it'll be a message to KDev, and we'll sort of roll from there with removing the inactive owners and members. No updates on Slack infra, contributor documentation. The big thing here is I updated our reviewer guidelines, and if it could now use a second round of, well, it's probably like a third or fourth round of reviews at this time. It was pretty much a complete rework. So if you have some free time to review that, that'd be much appreciated. And Laura, you have your issue triage one. I did the sign off on that one.
Yeah.
Are you looking to get any more eyes on it, or just a LGTM at this point?
I think just, LGTM, and then was it in here where we talked about the possibility of getting someone to review all the docs, like hiring a doc writer to clean up ContribEx?
Yep, we have a season of docs intern request out for that.
Okay, cool. Because I'm wondering if there's like a quick way, because it kind of overlaps with process simplification, to set it up for that person so that they have less to do. So I think we talked last time about a walkthrough using the docs and
stepping through, especially like for those of us that have been with the project for a while. We don't cache the things that new contributors don't would have questions on.
Right. So I wonder what would be the fastest way to get that done. We don't have to decide that here, but if I could see like the Insta tree of all the docs and then another Insta tree, like how the docs are nested in each other, then that's like a flow that's existing, and how do we tighten up the flow would be the...
We would definitely like to get that better for the contributor site. And surfacing that information, which sort of rolls us into the next thing. If you like, I can share my screen here quick if people are interested. But this is the current sort of preview of the contributor site, which will the goal of presenting our documentation in a more contributor-friendly way. This is using the Doxy theme. And this is where we want to sort of like focus on how things should be nested and organized. We do want to do that in the community repo too, but with this will hopefully be the general like user-facing, like the general user-facing front for a lot of this. And we'll have other resources on here like release information, calendars, and
so design question that came up much earlier. Is a contributor site, if we're doxy theming it, oh, nice mug. If we're doxy theming it, does that mean it's going to come from an actual sort of Hugo structured repo? Or are we still doing the thing where we take stuff from the community repo and pipe it into something else?
So right now we take stuff from the community repo and pipe it into Hugo. So we have to, like, we add the metadata and all that for, like, you'll see the header and the contributor guide, all that section there. Eventually, things might shift over, but we'd have to see people using that more before doing that. The last time we brought up spinning out the documentation from the community repo, there was significant pushback.
Yeah, that's when I dropped off of that sub-project, actually, because in my opinion, it's not going to be possible to grow our contributor base to that documentation as long as we have this idiosyncratic pipeline that people can't figure out.
I know. I think like once the site is, socialized more and people start using that as the go-to, then we can possibly, push that discussion further.
Okay.
But I have an observation. You can agree or not, but I feel like maybe there's a tendency to perfect specific areas of, say, documentation, and then the documentation as a whole is perhaps duplicative or can be reduced. Like,
Deduped.
yeah, and then there's also a nesting option. Like when you have an outline, you have your high level theme, you break it down into further details and then further details. And that might, with this doc site, it might be more possible to nest more clearly.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to like cross-link and see that sort of thing there than it is in GitHub.
Yeah. So I see. Maybe, do you think that would it help if we did like I guess, do you have the current tree extracted somewhere, or is that
Sort of. It's
okay?
not. It's actually all imported, so it's sort of generated each time you build it.
Okay.
Like we can talk later on
Mhm.
that one. There is some more help wanted issues with this as well. These are the things we want to nail out before pushing live. I have that linked in the issue there. It's mostly fixing some of the little bugs, adding the contributor calendar back, and then we have to finish like transferring the domain over into WK8's infra.
Hey, quick one for the first item there, the icon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be because you're using Yugo Minify that sometimes breaks SVG files that's one-liners. And looking at the website, it looks like it has broken it up.
Okay.
So if you either add an SVG file instead of having it, well, you already have that, never mind. So what we did for another site was just disable Minify because they're super small anyway. Yeah, just ran with it that way.
Okay.
That didn't break any SVGs.
Can you do me a favor and just comment that on that issue?
Will do.
And I might be able to like knock that one out later today. In any case, with that, we are now sort of through our normal stand-up type-ish stuff and on to open discussion. The sort of big ticket item that I want to talk about was we've talked about this a little bit before, and we want to talk about like just one more time here before we go to the list. But that is moving back to a weekly meeting and sort of consolidating some of our less attended meetings into this one, with the general goal of having these meetings be more frequent but shorter. And we'll send out an agenda ahead of time to try and make it so that way if you can't make it, or if you don't see anything on the agenda, no big deal. And then we'll couple that with sending the notes to the list. So if something was discussed that you are, have an opinion on and you weren't able to make it, you can then follow up on the list. How is that, sounding to everyone?
How would it be possible to send the priorities for this group in that email? Like, would that be part of the email? Like, this group has goals. Here are those goals.
I'm not sure about the priorities. It's mostly like for the most part, be sending the agenda items, and a lot of our main items are like those are sort of farmed out to a lot of the sub projects, but we do have some larger umbrella things that we try and keep track of here.
Yeah. So maybe putting those in the email to remind everybody of what they are, and then you can always comment on those priorities.
The other big one is calling out for like help wanted, or things that you need, reviews requested, and just getting those out to the list will hopefully get more visibility to the people that are sort of attending or working through it asynchronously.
I mean, perhaps it requires a little pre-meeting coordination, but if you have specific help wanted items related to the SIG's goals, identifying those beforehand, and then people have a direct way, like, I know this is needed and I want to contribute to it.
Yeah, honestly, we'll probably just give it a shot and see how things go, and shape it as essentially from feedback. Does anyone have any opinions or other questions about that?
No, I think that sounds good to me personally. Did we talk about canceling those other meetings then if we move this to weekly, the APAC and
Yep.
triage and all that, right? I think making it, then it will make it more simpler, right?
Yeah.
With all the different meetings at different weeks, and I personally miss it attending. But anyway, that's my opinion. So it looks good to me.
I've talked to Marky, but I'm pretty sure we're planning on still having the mentoring meetings, partly because we have a time zone issue with the mentoring team.
Oh yeah, the large sub projects like that, like mentoring, events and marketing would still have their own meeting. This would just be rolling into our much less attended meetings, like our contributor documentation, our issue triage. Issue triage will now just sort of be on the tail end of the meeting and give people an opportunity to drop if they don't want to be around for that.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Yeah, +1 like Josh said, sounds good.
Okay.
That's great.
We need to produce another set of those +1 stickers.
I have a pile of them.
They're so useful on video calls.
Honestly, we should all just have the set so on the thumbsticks or something, so you can just raise the.
Well, I have ones, so I have some by my bike and I have some on my desk, so I always have them convenient. I don't use the other stickers so much.
You did the +1 that you put up? Was that something you had, or was that through?
No, we had this at a CNCF event.
Oh no, sorry. Dawn had a thumbs up that popped up on her screen.
Oh. If you go to the bottom of your Zoom thing, there's reactions, and there are two choices. So one is a thumbs up, and the other is a clap.
Okay.
So you can't be sad, you can't be happy. You just get thumbs up or yay.
Okay.
I don't know, which kind of seemed like the same thing, but whatever.
It'd be awesome if we could actually import our own.
Wait, that's a clap? I thought that was a washing hands. As in, I'll be back in 20 seconds.
See, whatever you want it to be.
Anyway. On the next PR velocity updates, Lori.
Yeah, so I think those have all been pretty transparently communicated over Slack channels and threads, but basically I have one question for Ihor, is that we had talked about on the CNCF channel about meeting with Wukash next weekish to just get more of a face-to-face interaction around what the purpose of the dashboards are, and to just get, for me, also to get some more context on them so that I can relate to this team. Is that possible to set up for next week?
You'd better ask Lukasz.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep in mind he is in Poland, but if you have any questions, you can also ask me.
I'm in Berlin, so it's fine.
Oh, you're in Berlin. Okay.
Time
so
zone
it's
works
easier for you to sync with Lukasz than it is to sync with me. So
yeah, and I didn't know if I thought Ihor wanted to be parting, so I wanted to declare that it was fine with him.
Yeah, it's better to ask Lukasz directly and set everything up with him directly, and that's it.
Yeah, but will you be available to join it? Do you still want to join?
Of course, and I'm in 1 hour from you.
Okay, yeah. So
still easier than for Josh.
Yeah, we're all close.
Well, in that case, just post any. If Lucas can't remember why we created a particular chart, just post that in Slack, because I probably will.
It's not that. It's there's a lot of contextual information that just isn't there for me to fully understand how everything works and to walk through an explanation that I could then pass on to someone else who asked me.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, if you get that in the form of notes, please write it down, because we have a big to-do to improve the descriptions for most of the charts.
Yeah, that's what I would totally do that and share.
Yeah. There was some, sorry.
Yeah, I just see that there's some packaging improvements to those that they're not fully described so that a user would actually be able to spot the value, and perhaps through some of the discussions that we've been having, some of that information has been surfaced. But there's also just the actual usability directions. What do the different numbers mean? Where do they come from? And I put in the question about pruning because Josh had a comment on the thread, which of these dashboards might we prune? Without a lot of data, it seems really hard to answer that question. We don't even have people using them to actually have feedback one way or the other.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this because, so there's some dashboards that were created more or less for a single purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's one where you can pick lists of contributors and check their current reviewer, contributor, et cetera, activity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we probably want to keep that one, but to give you an idea of single purpose, that was actually created specifically to support the group mentoring program.
Yeah.
So we have a group mentoring cohort, and then we put that list of people in that chart, and we can see whether or not the people who were being group mentored actually step up their review activity.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you and I can just get together about the context for some of those dashboards so that I can meet Lukash better prepared.
Okay.
Is that cool? Okay.
If you want, like, if you get that information, like, please feel free to PR in the DevStats folder under the SIG contributor experience directory in K community.
Oh, I didn't know there was one.
There's not too much there. It's mostly there just as the, like, to represent the owner, like, who's sort of helps out with that project.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pop it. We did have a script at one point to try and populate the repo groups, but considering we have so many things where repos are owned by multiple groups and it's subders, it wasn't super, it wound up not being super useful. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it's mostly just again that owner's file there, and yeah, there really isn't anything there at the moment.
All right, well maybe we change it. But yeah, getting the context from Josh and then having the meeting set up with Lukash and Ihor, and then I bet by the end we'll have a lot more material to help. All the
things.
All the things. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, time for you to drop.
Me?
Sorry, Don.
Okay.
And then let's see, you have the next thing too, the 119 process improvements.
Yeah, so I've been pinging the release team because, like, I personally see in my observations after, 6 weeks working in the project that there's too many things going on at the same time. So I'm a big believer in work in progress limits, and you can fight me on this, and we'll have a debate. But essentially what I see is a lot taking place all at once, and it may not all be necessary. So this is for the release team, and this has been validated by members of the release team. And so basically what the goal is, how do I help them do fewer higher value things related to process improvements? And so first that I was wondering if I could, maybe you can just pull this link up actually, then you don't have to, but basically just getting all the items that I can find related to release team process improvements in a single place. And then, So I've shared this link with that spreadsheet. And then there's 4 primary steps to the release cycle. And then I've created tabs for those 4 steps. Did you see it?
Yep, I'm opening up right now. Actually, if you want, do you want me to let you share your screen?
No, you can just open the link. I thought it would be easier,
Okay.
but maybe it wasn't in the end.
Oh, no, like I'm looking at it myself. It's just if you wanted to highlight anything.
Oh, I just thought we would flash it for everyone to follow what the idea is, and then.
Okay.
If it's easier for me to do it, I can do so as well.
Oh no, it's all good. I was just talking like if you wanted to dive down into it, I figured, you know.
I think the first screen is enough. People will see. But you haven't presented it to everyone, so we can't.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. That's all right. I do it all the time. Yeah, so here you go. Here is basically the dump of items, themes, topics. There's even sub-project boards. I've pulled all of the enhancement sub-project board items one by one into this. And then the column A is meant for everybody to just clarify which stage in the release cycle it fits under. And there's right now a diagram with these 4 stages of the release cycle. It's on GitHub, and so it's what you see here: feature definition, feature work. There's 2 more below. Yeah, I think they were categorized. There's also, there's the release notes and the release, and then the overall process. So there's 5 stages total. Oh, bugs. So you have a tab for every stage. And then the goal here is for the team to meet asynchronously after I give a presentation in a couple weeks, June 1st, I think. What are the musts, shoulds, nice to haves, and won't do's items so that they can prioritize for each category, like all the feature definition, all the feature work, etc. So what are the most urgent? And then what are the highest impact, lowest effort? And then this should ideally cut down, like they might be able to consolidate some of these ideas, and at least they can set 119 and 120 goals that are based on the highest value goals instead of things that might be really time consuming, but not very high value.
I got you.
And then if it's like a huge need, maybe there's a way to break it down into smaller bits so that they can achieve the highest value part of that stated goal in some reasonable amount of time that they can define, whether it's for 119 or 120. And then the goal of this is to clarify exactly what is the happy path for the release cycle. Because that's not diagrammed anywhere. And Sasha Guinert, who's also in Germany, so time zone friendly.
It works out. A lot of the people shaping this stuff is over there.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but we want to diagram the release cycle flow, especially with these interfaces with the SIGs, and then understanding what has to be working in those interfaces to allow for a relatively seamless flowing release cycle. Where might information get dropped? How do we delegate responsibility for the item? And so we want to diagram that, and this will help support that. And then also I was asking earlier about the docs flow, because if that is in sync with the release cycle flow, like then you have everything talking to each other, and you may only need 1 place instead of 2, or a lot of items
and number of places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So I'm sorry that was a long explanation, but it's kind of, hopefully you can see like how I'm approaching some of these bigger questions. And the goal is that with cascading downward with seamless flowing process, then you have also the organic SIG needs to like also manifest upwardly some improvements. And then in the middle, hopefully at some point you have the 2 meet. But I think that because the release team and the release cycle is so fundamental, any positive effects and impacts there will cascade downward, and it can also set other SIGs around the release process on a better path by driving that change. And they've already been working on this, so it's already happening, and it's just a way to accelerate some of that.
Where some of it, a lot around enhancement workflow. Jeremy Rickard has been picking up a lot, has been working on developing tooling that might help a good chunk of it. That will probably become more public here soon once a enhancements meeting is set up under SIG-Arch. I can loop you into that conversation too.
That might be where I might end up spending more of my time, because it sounds like that is product roadmappy in origin and nature. And so then you would want to make sure that you can deliver on those enhancements. Again, the highest value, highest impact work gets done. And then how do you actually delegate that flow is supporting the release goal?
Okay. Here.
Yeah.
Did anyone have any other questions or things they wanted to?
Where did all of the items in that spreadsheet come from?
Manual addition. This is what I do, a lot of collect people's stuff and make them look at it at one place. And then
No, but I mean, where was your source material?
GitHub issues, the sub-project boards, some of the relevant parts of the contributor docs. So anything that's related to like the current release team process, I would just try to shove in there.
Yeah, there's one more place, which is for every release post-mortem.
Yeah.
There is a section of things to change in the future.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the release team is not great about turning 100% of those things into issues.
Okay. So are you speaking about the retrospective document where they will go over what? Yeah. Yep. So I did see the one for 118.
Yeah. And the sad thing is, if you look back, 2 or 3 releases, you'll find a lot of action items for those that were just never done.
Okay. I know that oh, go ahead.
Just one of the struggles with the release team has been that if something can be fixed within the course of a 3-month release, it gets fixed. But if it's going to take longer than that, it just never happens. That's the drawback to the release team turnover that we have.
But I've seen this in every company. Usually a team will just have a goal like fix docs. It'll be so broad and so big that they can't possibly achieve it in any reasonable short-term time frame. And so they need to break it down so that they can make incremental progress. So that might be what's happening, but I would have to look. I did see some of the 118 goals being converted into items, but it might be that the 1 in 16 and 17 are not there.
Yeah, some of them always get converted into issues. It's that not all of them do. Because in a lot of cases what happens is, at the time of the retro, somebody says, I'm going to put this in the to-do, but I'm already working on it. Which is fine if they finish that thing. But if they end up not finishing that thing, any record that they were working on it is pretty much lost at that point.
Okay.
So,
no, that's not good.
And I realize it because it's been 4 cycles since I've been on the release team, but I've emceed a couple of retros, and I was like, wow, this item was on my retro for 111. So yeah.
I mean, we can work together.
Win with a strong +1.
Yeah. I'm asking everybody, dump whatever you know about in there. That's all you have to do. Just get it in that sheet, and then we will look at all of it. Stephen also proposed having a really long session with just the two of us. I offered to help, but he said, I have to go through all of this stuff. It's 70% of it could probably get gone or just reorganized in a more simpler way. So I need to check in with him on that. But the goal is to have the release team go through all of it and prioritize as a team. But not at one big bang. I'll intro it, and then what we do is asynchronous breakout groups. So then it actually isn't like a gigantic meeting that everybody needs to attend, which is not going to happen because of world time zones.
Biggest problem ever.
World is not flat.
Yep.
Boo.
Okay. Are there any things people want to discuss on this point or other open items?
A bunch of us were at office hours, so apologies for that conflict. It's literally the first time that's happened. I don't understand how we mathematically avoided conflict until like today.
You did this to yourself.
I know I did. Got no one to blame.
Don't even worry about it. I've been away for a long time because recuperation, like.
It's good to see you, Gwen. I came hoping just to see you.
Things got to be a lot. So, but it's so good to see everyone. Hi.
Hi. I know you from your issue. Chairs must be more responsive, and I was like, I hope I can.
and then I dropped off. So now I feel like a hypocrite.
You're not a chair.
Fair. But I don't think I know you. I'm Guinevere. Hi.
I'm Lori. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. Oh,
I miss you all so much. Cannot wait for a CubeCon. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get emotional.
it's okay.
Virtual KubeCon not doing it for you?
Yeah, no, it is not. What's next on the agenda?
We are through the agenda. At this point, we'd be diving into issue triage.
Ooh, did we just? Sorry,
Yeah.
I've been wrapping up office. Did we discuss the weekly thing? Are we doing that or not? Or is that going on the
Yes,
list? Okay,
we should still probably follow up with the list just to, be async about it. But everyone seems to be in favor for it.
Okay.
Okay.
I can just add to Slack from maybe, sorry, if you want to. I can give an update.
Go for it.
I talked to Catherine about the gender-based moderation. There's a pretty good proposal out there for it. I started working on it, and I hope to have it finished in the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's at least my goal, my timeline for it. Hope to have a PR open in like 2 weeks' time, depending on how work goes. But since we are in Germany, I have 4 days now free time, which I can spend on this particular issue. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Really appreciate picking all that up.
Yeah, I have. Let's just talk about Slack for a little bit. I feel like with Catherine moving on, that we should probably have like an actual sub-project meeting. I just want everyone to keep an eye out, especially people in Asia and Europe. We will definitely need to go through the moderators again. I know there's some inactive ones that we're going to have to prune out. So if you know anybody, preferably if they're a Kubernetes org member already and they have to sit in Slack all day anyway and they're in Europe and Asia, that's like a no-brainer. So if you have anybody in mind, once we have the meeting, we're going to do a call for moderators and all that kind of stuff. So it's a good way for people to contribute if they have to sit on Slack anyway. And as always, anybody who's working on maintaining the tools and stuff, that's going to need to be a thing. But it sounds like Pierre and Marky, you're making good progress there as far as figuring out where we are.
Pierre's mostly doing it. I'm just doing one little bug fix, but I'd love to help out there.
Yeah, but you're a good mentor to just have around.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good mind. Now, I guess the code looks very clean. It's very easy to work on, in my opinion, at least. I have no idea how it is deployed, to be honest. But we will figure it out once we are there, I guess, once we have to make a change that needs to.
Okay. I think that's it.
Triaging? Is that what we're doing
Well,
next?
I was going to at least stop the recording of this before we pop over to that.
Yeah. So we're just going to stay here and just triage, right? And Josh, I got a few things I got to ask you that works better on a video. If you can stick around for a second.
Okay.
So at this point, if people want to drop, we'll wind up just like sticking around and triage a few issues. I was thinking try and go through our backlog of frozen ones. Anyway, that,
Okay, let
if
me
you're dropping,
switch
Thanks,
consoles here.
everyone.
later.